All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Tea with Z. My name is Zamil Solanki, and it's an absolute pleasure to be joining each and every one of you again on another episode this morning. And if you haven't done so already, go and grab your tea, your cuppa, your coffee, whatever it might be, because we're about to jump into today's episode. And if you haven't as well, drop a like, drop a heart, show me some love. Let's get this energy exchange all happening and pumping. And feel free to drop a comment in the comment section below as well, because at the end of the day, we're all about interaction here. We want to drive interaction, and interaction drives conversation. And that's something that I say pretty often. And the way in which we can interact and converse two ways in a digital format is through the chat box. So drop your comments, and even if you are watching a replay, I'll be sure to respond to each of your comments as well. So good morning, everybody. Now, as you may have seen on the news, on the TV, the eastern seaboard, eastern coast of Australia is still getting smashed by wild weather and storms. And we were obviously impacted with it last week. And that's why we didn't have episodes of TWZ last week, as we navigated the challenges that presented. And now we flip to the other side of the world as well, and where we see war, conflict. And we've seen war and conflict rage on in many parts of the world for many years, if not decades. But now seeing new wars and conflict arise. Now, something that I was chatting with a colleague about yesterday was about the role of communication in crisis, but also just in leadership throughout your business, throughout your healthpreneurial journey, throughout your team, throughout your family, whatever it might be. Communication is probably the most fundamental pillar in ensuring that people understand what they need to do, people understand what they don't have to do, but people also understand the journey that they're on and what challenges, roadblocks, obstacles they might be facing, and how as a collective unit we're going to be overcoming them. Now, when we look at communication as a leader, so the need to communicate and the communication style of leadership, well, a lot of the time when we see communication play out, particularly in just our normal day-to-day lives, it's quite directional. It's quite top down, it's quite directional, and it's instructional as well. So we're giving instruction about tasks completion, about what we need to do, how we need to do it. But a lot of the time, we don't actually seek communication from the bottom up. And by that, I mean, are we seeking communication from our team? Are we seeking communication from our community? Feedback, insights that we can then build upon to understand how we can do things a bit differently, what we're doing well, and things that maybe we need to work on. Now, in times of crisis, communication is one of those things that needs to even elevate even more. And we find that uncertainty, fear, worry, anxiety all stem from a lack of communication. They stem from the uncertainty that a lack of communication creates. And as a result of that, we then start to try to figure out things ourselves. We try to navigate the crisis alone. And as a result, we find that we are hitting challenges, roadblocks, obstacles at greater frequency. And without the ability to communicate effectively, we're unable to navigate those challenges, roadblocks, and obstacles a lot more effectively and efficiently. And so the biggest thing that I've noticed, and even when you switch on mainstream media at the moment, and they're prying and you can see that they're turning these crises into political arguments and political point scoring and things like that. And you try to see how, and through those layers, how they're trying to communicate to the masses. Now, unfortunately, mass media, as we know, largely propagate viewership based on fear, based on driving fear, driving uncertainty, driving worry. We see this. Just look at the language that gets used. But when you step back into your role as a healthpreneur, as a leader in your community, if you're driving communication to elicit fear, well, what results are you going to get? You're going to get increased fear, increased anxiety, increased worry. All of those things that we're trying to mitigate and remove from our communities, from our teams, from our families, from our businesses, is propagated through a lack of communication, but also through our communication styles and the information that we're conveying through. And so it's really important that then through crisis, through challenge, is that we as leaders, as healthpreneurs within our businesses, within our communities, step up and become that voice of neutrality, that voice of looking at things objectively and factually, to then provide actual information that people can use, digest, and remove the levels of uncertainty that they're experiencing. As a healthpreneur and as a leader within your business, your community, your family, people turn to you to get that essential human need of certainty. But if we ourselves don't have the communication skills to impart that knowledge, impart that wisdom, and to help guide people through these challenges, then they turn to other resources like mass media and things like that, which builds up hysteria, which builds up anxiety, which builds up worry. And as a result of that, then they circle back to you in a very different state. And so my question to you right now is, how are you communicating through crisis? What tools and resources are you using to communicate with your community, with your team, and to also seek feedback from them as well, so that you can then act upon it, so that you can get information from a ground level that is factual and that you can actually do something with to then help others, help yourself, and help your team. So my question for you is, how are you communicating right now? In times of crisis, what tools, resources, methods are you using to communicate to your team, your community, and throughout your business? And as a healthpreneur, how are you hoping to communicate in a way that ensures that their health and well-being is the number one focus? In a crisis, mental health and well-being is the first thing that unfortunately goes, is the first thing that gets impacted. And we've seen that during COVID. We've seen that during pandemics. We've seen that during other wild flood events, is that worry, that anxiety builds. But then what pulls them back is that community spirit, is checking in on people, is seeking feedback, is offering support and providing avenues of support if we can't support them ourselves. And so when we look at communication in a crisis, we have a massive opportunity to step up and be the voice of certainty. Even despite all of the uncertainty, we might not have all the answers, but by being a voice that carries a message about promoting health and well-being during times of crisis, we can aim to reduce the anxiety, fears, and challenges that people are going through. So my challenge to you today is to reflect on how you're communicating at this point in time, and how you're communicating both from a top-down approach and seeking communication from a bottom-up approach. And the way in which we seek communication, seek information, is by asking the right questions. Is by asking the right questions and then delivering the answers to those questions as well. We won't know what information that we need to act upon or deliver if we're not asking the questions in the first place. So, two things. What are you doing to communicate? What tools, resources are you using right now? And how are you actually communicating the message? What feedback are you acting upon? What questions are you asking? So what tools or resources are you using to communicate, and what questions are you asking to ensure that you are answering questions that need to be answered? So that's it from me today. And hey, Tash, good morning. Thanks for another great talk to start the day, and great one to remember, as language we use and how we communicate has such a big impact. So true, so true. And this translates to a team environment as well. We might not be facing a wild weather event within our business. We might be just facing some other challenges, roadblocks, or obstacles within our business. It doesn't have to be labeled a crisis, but communication during any times of uncertainty, challenge, or obstacles is paramount. So we can extract these lessons and use it in our local senses as well. So that's it from me today. Have an absolutely incredible day. I look forward to reading your takeouts as well. And thanks, Tash, for dropping that comment as well. Have an awesome day, and wherever you are in the world, stay safe, stay well, and I look forward to catching up with you on another episode of Tea with Z tomorrow. Bye for now.